Hey, who'd you talk to? What's going on? It is me, Mike Lepre, King Mike L. This is Legit Paranormal, brought to you by LegitPodcast.com. It is January 8th, 2023, which for the math geeks playing along earlier, I came up with there's a 1 and then an 8. 1 times 8 is 8. And on the other side of that, you get 3 times 2 plus 2, and then you would get 8. That's the only way I can do it for the math geeks. Now, joining me as always with his brand new addition, Buddy Money there. Looking
Hi, good evening, Mike.
Oh.
Good evening, listeners. This is just really quick introduction because she's freezing and she's dying to get back to bed. Ginny Page, she weighs 16 lovely pounds right now. She's going to weigh about 90. And she's a chocolate lab, and she's my my newest addition to the my haunted basement here in Smithfield.
That's gonna be a chubby little dog.
Yeah, it's gonna be a good one. Oh, go ahead, Jay. Go ahead.
Hey, have you let her go out back outside your window to chase the loons yet?
Yeah, she was chasing the loons this afternoon. It was a good time. She was in the water. She's going nuts, Mike. The loons are gonna love her. I can tell already. It's gonna be a good time.
Buddy, you seem a little bit unsettled. You seem like something
Mike,
out of the paranormal happened to you.
Out of the paranormal a little bit. It's a little bit of an unsettling day. But when I'm having a not so settling day, I like to settle, Mike, with a little bit of treehouse. And I have a special glass.
Tang.
I don't know if you can see that. Yeah,
it's like Tang.
It's got like an orange juicy taste. It's got a mango-y taste. And what's better than the king, only better than the king, is the Emperor. It's beautiful. It's 8.8. I'll be drinking some of these later. Not too many because I have a paper to write. But special thank you to the New England Patriots and your epic loss today and pushing my Dolphins into the first round of the playoffs.
On that note, Joey Paranormal, how you doing, Joe?
Not too bad. Laughing at the fact that Buddy thinks it's an opportunity for his Dolphins to go into the playoffs to lose to the Bills, which is what everyone was playing for anyway. So congratulations, Buddy.
You guys,
the streak will continue.
You guys have that smell on your side of the camera? You guys smell sour grapes? I smell sour grapes, buddy. You smell sour grapes?
I don't
think I got sour grapes. What? So as a Pats fan, I have to take the abuse for years, and now that I can give some abuse, it's sour grapes. Sounds like other people had sour grapes.
Oh, Joe, you're giving abuse after you lost. That's a little sour. All right, buddy. Why don't you try to take that off you? Take the sourness, peel it off you, and do the introduction.
I'll peel the sour off in just a second.
Go right ahead.
Joining us this evening, he's an author, he's a podcaster, he's a storyteller, he's an adventurer and an explorer of the unexplained. He's written more than a dozen books that have been published in 6 different languages. He's an Emmy-nominated host, writer, and producer of New England Legends on PBS and Amazon Prime, for that matter. He provides programs and lectures to audiences all over the world, and he has been the writer of and researcher for every episode of this little show called Ghost Adventures. Joe, you might know it. Welcome to the show, Jeff Belanger.
How are you, Jeff?
Good. Thanks for having me.
That was one of Buddy's best introductions.
Right?
I mean, literally, Joe, right? How many minutes?
It was almost like he was reading it word for word.
Yeah. No, but
yeah.
He was.
Why would you say that?
Jeff,
can I just say, I've been to the Treehouse Brewery, and that is some fine manna from heaven you got there, buddy.
I love it, dude. I love Emperor. I took it. I usually only buy this beer twice a year because it's just so decadent and beautiful. But
it costs more than drugs.
Yeah, it's our 2-year anniversary. So cheers.
Yeah,
cheers.
That's right. We actually had our own beer. We had all I have is empty cans. We had Legit Paranormal Brew, with Six Pack Brewery.
Oh, it's 6-pack in Bristol, yeah.
And then I had my Italian bar fangool. That's the name of the bar that I have in my basement. I made sure they put a Nana with a Italian spoon, the wooden spoon. Is bar fangool. Now, Jeff, what do people most ask you? My question to you is, when somebody has a wide variety of stuff, what do you feel like people hone in on when they come up to you and ask you a question? What What's that first question usually?
You know, that's a tough one to answer because it depends. You know, if I'm in New England, they might ask me about like weird New England stories, which is like a huge part of my life. If they watch a lot of television, they might ask about ghost adventures. If they know a lot about my background, maybe they're going to ask about Ed and Lorraine Warren, who I knew since I was 13 years old because I grew up in the town next to them. Man, I don't know. Sometimes they ask me about football.
All right, but
I don't have much to talk about. Joey and I are just going to cry down here in the lower quadrants. Congratulations. There's nothing better than when your team makes it in because another team lost. That just shows some real gumption.
A match field goal for field goal is really something to be excited about.
All right,
yeah, when you're like, come on, other teams lose so we can get in. That's just showing a great season. Well done.
Or it's like having the other team throw an interception on the 1 yard line. And that's how you win when they have the greatest 1 yard line back in the league.
Right. Hey, I'm
picking up for you. We're not going to let it happen. Now, I want to point one question. Background. You said if different people come up to you, ask you stuff. You said people that watch TV, football, and then New England, and you mentioned beer. Those are the same people, Jeff.
Yeah, that's fair. That's a lot of the same people. There's some overlap for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, like, it's not that sounds like a lot of New England people you just kind of mentioned there.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Yeah. So, all right, when it comes to buddy, actually, you know what? I wrote this down and I just read it now. It said to make sure a buddy gets to ask a question early. I swear to God, I think I'm lying. I wrote it. I had to write it in marker. Go ahead, buddy. I'm going to let you ask a question, Jeff. This is unusual.
Yeah. All right. So, Jeff, you've investigated and explored and gone to various different locations, not just here in New England, which have their own name on them, but around the world. Has there ever been a point where you've just been like terrified of the unknown, like scared that it's actually scared you, where you've had to like either leave or just like really get a grip on what's going on?
2 times. Once I was in a place called Volcano, California. Northern California was supposed to be the capital of California. They had all the gold there during the Civil War, but then, things change and so on. Town is so small, population 90. And we were investigating the St. George Hotel in town. And then we went to this little cemetery in the center of town. I mean, no bigger than like someone's very small backyard,
Mm-hmm.
We're out there about midnight. And out of the shadows, this guy comes stumbling and he's got a pistol in his hand. And it's obvious he's pretty drunk. And he goes, "You guys want to become a ghost tonight?" I just about EVP'd myself at that point because someone's got something personal here against ghost investigators, especially being in his little town at midnight. And so that was a bit scary. Not to ruin the story. I didn't die.
No, that's
spoiler alert.
That's one of the most things that makes the most sense out of anything I've heard in the last couple of months.
Yeah,
of course. That's terrifying. Anybody with a gun that's drunk, first of all, that's already 2 things that I don't like. But then you add making it personal, calling out being a ghost. I'm out. Like I'm buddy, drink. I grew up so Italian that hearing that makes me think, someone's gonna go get the lime. Like this isn't gonna be good. You know what I mean? So just smart. That's a smart move. All right.
That was number 1
time.
The second time. So I was in Eastern State Penitentiary, and actually
there
were the Ghost Adventures guys in Philadelphia.
Oh, I thought you got arrested, Jeff. I thought you
No, although I've been in more jails than quite a number of. I mean, Lindsay Lohan has not done as much time as I have.
Wow.
Collectively over the years and at different prisons. I've been in a lot of them.
That was a great reach. That was awesome.
Yeah. So anyway, we're in Eastern State Pen, which is where we get the word penitentiary. It's an amazing place if you've never been. It's built like a wagon wheel, so like a couple of guards could stand back to back and see the whole thing. Really smart design. And originally, every cell was solitary confinement. And if they ever had to move you, they would put a bag over your head so you couldn't see any people. And there was just a slit of a window in the roof where you could be penitent and pray to God for forgiveness. I mean, that's emotional torture by today's standard, but it was cutting edge back then. So anyway, I tend to like just walk around a lot. If you let your eyes adjust, you really don't need a flashlight. There's enough like ambient light, and I prefer to not have flashlights if I can help it. Walking around late, and I was walking down one cell. I mean, there's bats that fly right up to your face. All that's fine, whatever. And then I'm walking down this one cell block, I couldn't even tell you which one, but if we were there, I could walk you right to it. You know what I mean? Because they were all, So I get halfway down, and when you look over, man, those cells their doors are wide open, but it's blacker than black. I mean, pitch, a wall of black. I'm halfway down, and I just stopped. I stopped because I was petrified. Something was scaring me to my core of cores, and I just couldn't move. And I didn't see anything. Nothing touched me. I didn't hear anything. But I'm like, all right. I turned around and I went right back to the middle rotunda there, and I calmed down and I went, okay, all right. And then I walked a few steps down another one. Fine. I'm like, I'm going back. Something's in my head here. I'm going back. I walked about a quarter of the way down, and I felt that feeling again. And I'm like, I'm not going to push this a third time. I stayed out the rest of the night. And I think we all have these gut instincts, this intuition, whether you're walking down some alley in a city or through a forest or whatever, and you ignore that voice that comes from you, you ignore that at your peril. And so I did not go back in that night. And those were 2 times I was scared for 2 entirely different reasons.
So that was, I mean, that buddy, he did that. He even wrapped it up at the end by repeating what the question was. He just answered you perfectly. Now, Joey,
that was a perfect answer. Yeah, that was awesome.
Joey, what I'm going to bring up is a couple of things I'm going to throw at you, and then you can throw this back. 1, Jeff travels. 2, Jeff should teach us how to enunciate. Not really me, not so much you, Joe, but I'm just saying he should teach us to enunciate. Thirdly, he could probably host anything. Fourthly, if that's a word, I wrote trust that, which means, trust your gut instinct. And then 5th, never mind bats, Joe, I try to punch seagulls. I can't stand things flying down near me. Like, he acted like a bat was no big deal, Joe. I'm being serious. I'll punch a seagull if I get a chance. I've tried. They're quick. So, Joe, go ahead. You're next.
Yeah. So, I kind of have a question. It's a little, unrelated to, at least, what we were kind of saying before that. You've naturally. So, thanks to Buddy's awesome intro, I would assume that you've done a lot of research in a lot of different locations. You've really got to delve into the history of a lot of different places across the country. Is there any place that you've researched that you maybe weren't thinking that you were going to uncover as much information or as much kind of crazy stuff that you ended up finding, or something that sticks out to you from your research?
Oh, yeah. The first time I wrote about the ghost of the White House was like 2003, 2004. And I had heard rumors about it being haunted, and I started to dig in on it. And I was like, okay, yeah, there's some stories here. And I've made it a chapter in my very first book, The World's Most Haunted Places. And I found various things. But there was so much stuff, man, so much stuff that I'm like, this deserves way more than a chapter. And I never stopped thinking about the White House. And so years later, I had the chance to write an entire book about the ghosts of the White House. And I called them up. And I called the main number because I'm not that politically connected. If you can believe that, you're going to have to take my word for it. I don't have a bunch of politicians in my quick dial there on the favorites.
But I get the mayor.
That good for you. You're more connected than me, hands down. However, I called the main switchboard of the White House and said, hey, I want to write a book about the ghosts of the White House. And they go, well, hold on a second. I'm like, all right. I mean, what can I do?
Better than anything.
Like 20, 30 seconds later, I'm talking to the boss. It was amazing. The boss is the chief usher, by the way. That's the person that all the staff of the White House report to. That's the butlers, the cleaning crew, the groundskeepers. These folks have worked there for years and years. Doesn't matter which political party's in power. They work for the White House. And he said, oh, yeah, we're not interested. And I said, well, first of all, I actually knew someone who was friends with his daughter. So I had a tiny bit of an in there.
There you go.
And so I dropped that name, and he's like, oh, yeah, I know her. I'm like, okay, cool. And then I said, look, we're going to use ghosts as kind of an innovative way to teach history to kids, because you can't know who a ghost is unless you knew who a person was. And he said, go on. And so it was cool, man. I got to go down there. They did a background check. I went down. I got to interview some of the staff. But more than anything, I started calling all the presidential libraries, which is every American's right, by the way. We own those libraries. And I said, I'm looking for any reference between, for ghosts or hauntings related to the White House. And all of them had something. And they said, one of them, the George H.W. Bush, which was the elder Bush, his library said, oh, I got a couple things here, but they're classified. And I'm like, I'm listening. right? And he's like, do you want to file a Freedom of Information Act, to get this declassified? And I'm like, absolutely, right? So I did, and the book came out, and like 6-8 months later, I get this document in the mail saying they declassified one of the two for me. Too late for the book, but it was a handwritten note from George H.W. Bush to David McCullough, who wrote
Yes, I'm familiar with David McCullough.
Those books, they're like thick, history books. They're amazing. And I'm paraphrasing the note, but it more or less said like, David, thank you for coming to speak at the White House last night. Either the White House really is haunted, or it's still the thunderous applause still reverberating throughout the building today. And on the one hand, I'm like, I felt like kind of crappy because this was just a heartfelt note between two people. And I really had no business reading it, but it's the White House and the president doesn't get privacy. But then on the other hand, I'm like, how cool that President George H.W. Bush even referenced the haunted reputation. Like he knows it, right? I mean, so on the one hand, like he's aware that he's living, or was living at the time in a haunted building, or a building reported to be haunted. Other presidents had a lot more stuff and it wasn't classified. I mean, Harry S. Truman had stuff, everybody, the Bushes, Reagan, everything. And I thought this is kind of amazing because it's all out there. Everything is cataloged inside that building. And these people had stories, man. They were you can't fire them. There's nothing, right? The only thing they could get fired for is like spilling secrets. But for them to say, hey, I was working in the building and I saw a ghost, there's absolutely no repercussion for that because it doesn't matter. And they had stories to tell. It was amazing.
Jeff, let me gather this for a second. You passed the background check, apparently.
Somehow.
Allegedly.
You obviously got through on the phone because of the enunciation.
Right.
And then I wrote down, take Jeff with me to get car loan. Because apparently, Jeff, it sounds like you can talk your way and talk yourself into anything. So I was thinking maybe you come with me, you do the talking. I'll just go.
Yeah.
See if we get a car loan. No
joke. That's probably not a bad idea. Like no, I tend to get in. Here's the thing. I'm fortunate that I work for a ton of different people. I basically have like 5 full-time jobs, right? I work for PBS. I work for, I'm an author. I work for newspapers. I work for Travel Channel. I work for Discovery. And I don't know, but this is 25 years of experience. If I call you, if you're like an alleged haunted location and you answer the phone and all you say is, hello, welcome to the blah, 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 I can almost tell by the tone of your voice which tact I should take, right? Like whether I'm just, so one of the funny things is that the name that opens the most doors is PBS.
Without a doubt. Without hands down.
Let's be honest. Nobody's watching. I know.
No, it doesn't matter though.
I know. But, and you know what? You know why they open doors for us? Because they feel sorry for us. And that's all it is. And you know what? I ain't too proud. I was born without dignity. I'll take it. Right?
No.
Yeah. Let me in.
Jeff, again, PBS, I think Big Bird. I think Mr. Rogers. I think, those are the good guys that never have money. That's what I think of, right? They're always, they're doing some sort of like Three Stooges marathon because they're out of money again, PBS. But I love PBS. That's a great name to use. Secondly, you're a born salesman. That's what I used to do in sales. In sales, people take that as an insult, but that doesn't mean you're selling people snake oil. There's a difference. I didn't say snake oil. See the enunciation? See, buddy? Can you get him at HR 11:30 Tuesday? Try to work that out.
Snake oil. Yes, Mike.
I get so flustered with Joey sometimes. What I'm trying to say is, that's a positive thing. A born salesman knows where to take the conversation next because it's almost a dance sometimes when you look back on it. It's always knowing what they're going to say and the probabilities of if I say this, usually, like, let me give you an example. I started working at like a cell phone store when I was really young, and I didn't want to really work there. But then I realized you can make extra money if you sold stuff. And I'm like, all right, I'm going to make sure I sell every guy that comes in here with a girl a phone charger. I guarantee it. And they're like, I was like, all right, here we go. First couple came in, and I'm like, yeah, you're both getting phones. I'm like, I said to the guy, you don't have to worry about you. You know, you seem like you can handle yourself, but you're probably going to want to get a car charger for her in case she breaks down, because that would be awful if she broke down in the car and the phone didn't work, right? And I would shut up and look at him. Now, if he said, no, she doesn't need a car charger, there was a good 5-minute argument that I had to walk away from and then come back to and sell him the car charger. or he was smart and just said, yeah, give me the car charter. That's kind of dancing someone into a position where you make a sale. All you're doing is you're talking from the ground up. The people that count, the guys that are on the basement. That's how you get. Those are the best people to know. Those those are the people to know. Never mind the people that are all flashy or whatnot. You know the people from the bottom, man, and they like you. That's incredible. That was an incredible pull on your part.
So here's the thing. When I started and everything, I started as a newspaper reporter, and that's so in reporting, we have something, it's called instant rapport, right? Where you need to meet somebody and you need to instantly connect.
Mm-hmm.
And so if I'm interviewing somebody, number one, they probably want something from me too, right? So like, hey, we want publicity. We want to be on TV. We want to be whatever, because that'll bring people in, and people equals money and whatever. So sometimes there's something I can offer as well. But I need something too. I need a story, or we're not going. And so I sort of find it's best to start somewhere else, you know, like not necessarily like get right into like, so you believe in ghosts? Because it's sort of like, whoa. Hey, you got to kiss me first, right?
Yeah,
like,
slow down there, guy. Yeah.
Buy me a drink, you know, a little dancing, little bit. But I don't have a lot of time for drinks and dinner and dancing. I've got just enough time to like put you at ease, and we got to get what we need.
Yeah, you can't slam somebody in the face with something.
It's just a lot of experience, you know, a lot of experience talking to people. I like people. I think everybody's got a story to share, and ultimately sort of wants us to share their story. And when it comes to paranormal stuff, in some ways, people, it's a burden that they can get rid of when they're talking to someone who just believes, or at least has heard it before. You know what I mean? Like, wow, you know what? There's not too many people I can talk to about this, but here's this crazy thing that happened to me.
Yeah.
And they feel better for sharing it.
You know what, Jeff? The thing that's weird is so this is like the second year of us doing this show. So it started off as like, let's do this on Sundays. And then it turned out that now we're doing multiple shows on multiple nights because of this show. I came into this as like a brand new baby because I've never watched a ghost hunting show because I had twins in 2003. So like my whole life was a bubble that didn't exist from 2003 to like, I don't know, 2015 roughly. When I came out of it, you know, I didn't know about these shows and whatnot. So what I've learned though is when I look back on all the old shows, I believe some people more than others, and it's because of a connection. And that's what I realize now in 2 years is the best part of what all this is, the connection someone makes with someone else who has a shared experience. Like that's more important than a discovery, than that fake word called proof. Like you're not going to have it nowadays. I keep saying that you're not going to have enough proof for somebody. You're just not. Nothing's going to be good enough for anybody. But if you make connections, that's gigantic right now, because I think what people lack are connections. I think what right now needs is more connections. This is that time of, I don't want to get into with the younger ages. You know, I am 75. People that are younger than me, buddy, why are you laughing? People that are younger than me, you know, it's they need connections. Like I'll go my 19-year-old twins. When I talk to my son about like, what are you gonna go do tonight? Well, what am I gonna go do? And it's like, I don't know. What do you do? Like, there's not much to do. There's not really no way to connect. So to get to connect with somebody, one, on a personal level is awesome. To get an experience that you thought that you only had, that someone else might have, is a validation. It doesn't make you feel bad about yourself. You don't beat yourself up over it. You don't think if you're crazy. There's something about that just makes you think, well, at least somebody else thought it. Doesn't even have to be that you believe their story, but if there's something similar to what you had happen to you, and there's a connection there, you kind of feel it. Like I guess what I'm trying to say is now I've started to learn that you just kind of feel it now. Like I have to go by feeling. When I hear somebody talk, it's like, all right, yeah, this guy's telling the truth. Like Chris DeCesare. When he tells his story, it's like you look at Chris and you're thinking to yourself, this kid's either the greatest, and I mean like he'd have to be literally deemed the greatest, given an award on TV, greatest liar of all time, or he's 100% genuine. And he's 100% genuine. You see what I'm saying, buddy? Like he's legit, that kid. He's totally like he's.
Oh, I love Chris. And I've heard his story a dozen times, and every time you just get something new out of it.
And the thing, Jeff, with you is, I believe you you're projecting something that is truth, and you're polished. Like, I'm being dead serious when I say that too, because on a podcasting level, when guests come in, some people, anybody knows it, some people have it, their shit together. It's go time, show time. Let's talk about it. Let's tell people stuff. Some people, you right out the gate, bang. So obviously, this is what you do. Joey, you're up next because it's Joey Paranormal Night. Go ahead.
I want to follow up on your research with the White House. Was there any specific story that you were able to kind of pull out of any of the libraries from any of the presidents that you could elaborate on that you enjoyed finding out about, or that kind of like really threw you through a loop?
Yeah. So Harry Truman wrote about the ghosts in multiple letters to his wife. Here's the thing. When you are president, when you're in the White House, everything that you ever write down, today it would be like every email, everything is cataloged, chronicled, and saved.
Wait a minute. So if it's written down, it's chronicled and saved.
Yeah. Well,
So
I mean, everything is supposed to be, because this is supposed to be, the people's house, right?
But see, my thing I'm thinking is the last two presidents, I don't picture neither of them sitting down and writing anything down. I don't see either one. I see one not being able to hold a pen because he's just too freaking hyper and he's got stuff to do. And I see the other one, holding the pen, and it's, you know what I mean? Yeah. Barely can draw an 8. You get what I'm saying? So I don't see them writing stuff down, these two. I could see them maybe yelling things out loud, but do they have like a stenographer that takes down what they say? Because now that would be stuff that you'd want to see on transcript, what these guys say. Because I mean, the 45th guy, you would probably just get this like run on. Like the poor stenographer would be like, and just sweating. And then for the new guy, it would be like every now and then, like dog, wait like 20 minutes. It'd be like blue ball, like, you know what I mean? Just kind of basic stuff like that. I guess what I'm saying. Buddy, you know what it is about me that I'm mad about?
What is it, Mike? I couldn't imagine.
They're putting a Chipotle across the street where the juice bar was put in.
Oh,
Jeff, here's my issue.
Let
me tell you my issue, Jeff. They put a juice bar in right around my neighborhood. Now they put a Chipotle. Now I know they got Google Earth. I know they do. So I'm worried. How are they doing the scouting for franchises? Where should we put this healthy restaurant? Are they literally just looking at me, my fat self, my neighbors that are fat, and they're going, you know what? This town needs a Chipotle. Like, is that what's happening? Like, Joey, help me. Is it Google Earth? Are they looking at us and going, you need to put something healthy in this Italian neighborhood? Because look at them.
Well, I mean, Chipotle is a fine dining establishment, so I would recommend they put one in every town locally to where we are.
So politically correct with your comments. It kills me. Buddy, you have anything to say about that?
It's a nice diversity, Mike. You guys got rid of the Burger King up the street, so it's nice to substitute in with a new fast food and a little cultural flair. A little Mexican in the town of North Providence is always probably welcome.
Sorry, Jeff. Every now and then, we have tangents where I just see what they're gonna do. It's if you knew these guys, you wouldn't trust them. Like, you can't trust them.
Good to know. Good to know. So Joey, to finish your thought there. So when I was going through the Truman archives, he had 6 different letters to his wife that referenced the ghost of the White House. 6 times he wrote about it. Like, to quote the president, "Sure is shooting, the place is haunted." Now, you don't have to believe the president. You can think he's making it up or whatever. But he wrote letters about, hey, I was home alone. I heard people walking upstairs. I went downstairs to find the Secret Service agent on duty and said, "What are you doing up there? That's, you're not supposed to be there." And him saying, "We're not up there. We're down here at our post where we're supposed to be." And so, like, that's just kind of cool, right? At the highest level, when you've got presidents writing letters to their wives about how haunted the building is.
And he holds more weight.
Yeah.
And he holds more weight to me.
Interesting. That's an interesting fact.
He shouldn't, by the way. So you know who should hold the most weight? So the presidents are not drug tested. They're not psychologically screened or evaluated. They're not background checked. Wow. They can be criminals
fantastic
and crazy and on drugs and psychotic and be president.
So you're saying there's a chance.
However, I got to interview the chief White House foreman. That's the guy that wears a blue collar, right? A uniform with his name on it. And he goes up and down the stairs and he turns on the lights and he, fixes things and changes light bulbs when they need to be changed. And he said he was going upstairs early one morning to turn the lights on, which is part of his duty. And he saw Abe Lincoln sitting right outside of the Lincoln bedroom with his legs crossed, his hands resting on his lap, looked right at him, and then disappeared.
Wow.
Now, who's a more reliable witness? That guy who's drug tested, psych screened, background checked 8 ways to Sunday, or President Truman? I would submit to you the foreman.
Yeah.
You know,
That's a great point.
All day long.
I go with Truman on this one. And then again, I do like the bet long shots. I like bombers. So I'm going to stick with Truman, and I'm going to base my fact on this, that Truman would have known where people were in the house at all times. But he's a president that had it on lock. Like, he was a G about his stuff. So Truman, hearing people in places that he knows there's not supposed to be people, holds weight and credit with me. I think I mean it that way. Like, because of the style of president he was, he wanted to know where everything was at all times. So if he heard a voice upstairs, that must have freaked him out. So that's why I think he's credible. I mean, he's probably a drunk. I'll give you that, Jeff. I'll give you that. He probably was a drunk.
Truman was from the show me state. So if there was any president, I would take his word over any other president. It would be him, because he would, like myself, would want to go and see it, want to experience it for himself. I would imagine.
Wow, buddy, that was better than mine. That was like, yours was intelligent.
Right? Like I almost love history and study everything about it, Mike. It's crazy.
Joey, that was mine was half-assed. No, I mean, geez, Lee, I'm not gonna go ahead, buddy. Next question.
I do actually have a question for you, Jeff, when it comes to the White House and the paranormal. So, in my lifetime of like looking into history and stuff, and my love for the paranormal, obviously, there's been a lot of talk about like Abraham Lincoln's presidency, about his wife Mary Todd maybe being a little bit off. She had, I know she had a few paranormal experiences herself in the White House, or it's said. Maybe could it be like the way people viewed other people's like reactions to paranormal was like seen as psychotic, where now she would be seen as a medium? Do you have any thoughts on that? Or
so Mary Todd Lincoln, their son Willie died while they were in the White House, right?
Yep.
And he died of like this typhoid-like disease, and she claimed Willie was visiting her at night while she was asleep. And that's fine. You could say that's a distraught mother that misses her kid bad. And she wrote about a letter to her sister, Emily. She would say, he lives, he comes to me each night. His uncle Alec, that Alec died as a child too. And so he's not alone. He's with Alec. And it gives me great comfort to know that these two are together in great eternity. And then we know that Mary Todd Lincoln was holding seances. You got to remember too, the 1860s was like the height of the spiritualist movement. I mean, it was really gaining ground. The Civil War was tearing the country apart. Psychic mediums are given readings everywhere, and they're becoming celebrities. And so when she would hold these seances, the president attended at least one, because in the papers they were like, what's this crazy president doing consulting with psychics? You might recall in the 80s, Ronald Reagan brought in numerologists and stuff, and astrologers, and like, what are you doing?
They made fun of him.
Yeah, of course. And fine, we all have different opinions on these things. So I think Mary Todd was grieving badly. We also know, remember, after her husband died, there was nothing in the government to take care of the widow of a slain president.
Wow.
She eventually made her way to Boston, where she paid a guy named Mumler $10 for a spirit photo that showed her husband in it. She sat for the photo, and there's the ghost of Abraham Lincoln. He would later be proven a fraud. Those were just actors, and there was a double exposure on old daguerreotype cameras. But she sort of sought that stuff out the rest of her days. So was she a medium? I don't know, but I would say she was highly sensitive to the subject, no question.
Even like Abraham Lincoln himself had the dream the night before he was murdered about his actual murder.
He had visions.
I wonder if there's some psychic connection or some kind of, maybe they gifted. I don't know.
That guy was, it's so amazing. Like, he's such an incredible figure. He's almost reached like deity status in the United States, even more than like Washington, right? Like, who's the top two presidents, right? Washington and Lincoln. That's the one everybody thinks of. The two everybody thinks of first. And he's reached that level. An incredible orator and speechwriter.
Yeah.
And you know what's funny to me? This is a total left field side note, but
hell of a
every time Lincoln is depicted in a movie, right? The voice is always something like 407 years ago.
Yeah, right.
To the point where you completely forget that no one knows what his voice actually sounded like. There's no recording of it. He died before anything was invented.
And the thing is that's a way that when people used to do voices back in even like the 40s, they would always go do like a deep radio voice.
Yeah.
If you think about impersonations and how they've been passed down, and it seems like everybody that's really old has a deep voice. I can't think of one person that's from way back that I do a high-pitched voice to mimic.
So the funny thing about the Lincoln one, I'm like, I one day when I have free time, which will never happen, I always wanted to like try to trace and find who was the first one that did that Lincoln voice that everybody has since copied. But anyway, I did find an article that described Abraham Lincoln's speech, saying the reporter said I heard him give a speech for the first time, and his voice was so high pitched it would move through these various resonances, through these high tones and stuff. So he probably didn't have a deep voice, especially weird considering he was so tall, unusually tall for the day. But whatever, like we've turned him into this icon status. And that's the thing about like a legend, right? That's the power of the story put on top of an actual thing. So for example, a haunted place, whatever, Waverly Hills Sanatorium in Kentucky, or, Eastern State Pen in Philadelphia. We could name hundreds of others. Something happened there. And then people have had weird experiences, and the legend, the story has grown up and around it and become bigger than the actual thing. That happens every time. There's nothing we can do about it, but it's also a way for us to sort of like find these places and start somewhere with our own research.
Right. Like here in Rhode Island, we have the Ramtail Mill site.
Yeah, I've been there. Yeah,
we've covered that. We've investigated that a few times. It's just I walked through there. It's just it's a nice quiet little area, but like one little incident that got documented that spawned all these other like stories that got documented. Now it's like labeled as haunted. Have you been to Ramdale? Do you believe it's haunted? Do you believe it's Peleg?
So Peleg Walker, right? So that's Rhode Island's official haunt. Yep. Because was it the 1880s, 85 or something?
It was like 1826 was the incident, and then in the 1880s it got put in the almanac, which my brother has a copy of, and it's 1886, I believe. It's documented as haunted in the state census.
So if you read the state census, what makes that so compelling is that there's all these like bulleted lists. There's like Joe's Mill, 1 acre, 8 sheep, whatever. Ramtail Factory, haunted. Next one, it's just like you're like, wait, don't bury the lead. What? Haunted?
Yeah, exactly.
Right. So it had a haunted reputation that far back. Peleg Walker, I've been there. We've done stories on it, done it on my podcast and stuff like that. Like, I think when first of all, you're in the woods, you're by this little river. It's these cellar holes. And all you can do is sort of imagine what it must have been like when it was bustling, when there was activity there, when they were.
It was a full functioning village that's now all woods.
Yep. And it's just
crazy how 100 years can change things.
And that's creepy, right? So we connect because we're human beings, right? It's called empathy. And so I don't think it matters that the people aren't there anymore. But you can just imagine what it must be like for what it must have been like to come there, to find his body in the factory, to find that place shut down, rotted away, burned to the ground. And then it was a picnic area. And I mean, I don't know. I grew up around haunted buildings. We would sneak in and the abandoned buildings, they were all haunted. You just want to sneak in and see what you'd see. So I get it. We just connect. That's what we do.
Quickly, Sarah has been asking this question, so I'm going to get it out. She says, can you discuss how stories can lead to paranormal activity, like a spirit gaining a bad reputation?
Yeah, so that's a good point. So Sarah, if enough people talk about a place, right, then you're going to get curious. And when we go to investigate, and by investigate, I don't mean just bringing equipment. I mean just going to like check the place out. You become part of the story, which is why everybody does it, whether you're conscious of it or not. You're just well, I want to see for myself. And you write your own chapter into it. Even if you go, I don't think that place is haunted at all. I was there all night, didn't see or hear a thing. Well, you didn't, but other people did. It doesn't end the book. But the story can become so powerful. So for example, not too far from you guys, Slater Mill.
Yes, I've investigated it with Carl Johnson, in fact.
Yeah, the Johnson brothers, right? Speaking of great deep voices. So in Pawtucket, before Ghost Hunters, the show, filmed there, there was never talk about the ghost of the little boy.
Mhm.
That's something that they introduced into the canon. That is the legend of, and I see this all the time. Like when a TV show brings in a psychic medium who says there's a little boy over there, there could be no little boy ever associated with a building ever. But now it's been on TV. It's been seen by hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people. And now when you go there, you're like, where's the ghost of the little boy? And people like Carl Johnson say, I've worked here for years. I've never seen such a ghost. I've seen other things. I've seen this weird thing over here, heard that, whatever. The boy ghost is new, but now we're stuck with it because he was on TV, which is interesting, right? So not to say that place isn't haunted. I think it very much is. But who and what is haunting it is the big question, right?
So you're the establishment. How do you resist the urge to let people come see the little boy? Because I'm not an establishment. I don't know how they operate, but they need people to come through, and they want people to know the stories and be attached. So if this false sort of story gets put out to everyone and it brings people there, is that bad? Because there's money ultimately behind it, or is that a good thing? Because either way, it's still bringing people to the house and getting them experiences, and life's going to move forward either way.
So I think no matter what, right? If a psychic medium says, "I see a little boy in the corner," maybe they really do, right? And though no one else has ever reported it, no one else has ever seen it, it doesn't necessarily make them a liar. That's just what they're reporting at the time, and so they can sort of stand by that. And the establishment can say, look, I don't even know if I believe in ghosts, but if you come here because you think it's haunted and you pay the same entry fee as everybody else and you want to poke around, what do I care? You know, I've seen it. I get that this becomes like part of it, drives tourism. I totally understand that. And I respect it. I mean, look, whatever puts butts in seats, I always say once they get in the door, you have an opportunity to teach them something. You have an opportunity to say, you came here for the ghosts. But let me tell you about like how the American Revolution, Industrial Revolution was born inside this building, how things like workers' unions were necessary because of horrible conditions in places exactly like this, how we pushed people too far. And maybe that should haunt us a little bit, that you would send your children up into these machines that clamp shut because they could change the spindles. And if they're stuck in there when it's clamping shut, too bad, they're going to die.
Yeah, I'm 100% behind that one. Like, I think the history is what people really like to hear. Like, they love hearing the history of the locations. They love the information on that. I think where it crosses over is they want to hear someone's information, but then on a personal level, they want to get to know that person. If that makes sense to you. Like, it must happen to you all the time. Like, they want to tell you something, tell you a story, but that's their way of kind of getting to know you. Like, them meeting you is them coming up to you and sharing a story. Like, that's got to be a lot of what you deal with.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, I think sometimes people that are especially more on the periphery of it, they might come to like hear me speak somewhere or whatever, and they're like, I've been carrying this around forever. Here's a guy that's interested. I'll share it with him. And it's cool. Like sometimes you get great story leads. You get like, oh, I'm going to go check that place out, or I want to know more, or whatever. Some people just need to know they're not alone when they have some sort of strange experience. And that's good. That's cool that like I can help provide that sometimes, or if nothing else, like, you're bringing people into one room that all are at least interested in paranormal. And that's a starting point for them to, kind of like have that discussion. I don't have the answers. I have no idea. I've never been dead yet. I can't tell you conclusively what happens next. I just know what I've experienced, what I've researched over the years, who I've talked to, what I've gone through. And I think that the discussion is the most important part. But here's the thing, right? Like people debate, like there's no such thing as ghosts. I'm like, there's a word for it. Do you understand, right? Like the fact that there's a word for it means that it's indisputably, inarguably real. It's in the damn dictionary. It's in the Bible, if that's what you prefer. What they are, well, that's the thing we can argue about forever and never agree and whatever. But the fact that there's a word for it, just let that soak in a minute. Stop it. You know,
Man, it's like paranormal. I'll talk to some like Italian friend that wants nothing to do with the paranormal because the Moloch and they wear the horn and they're all scared of it, and they'll be like, the paranormal, that's all bullshit. It's like, dude, the word paranormal now covers cryptids to ghosts to like demons to UFOs to like, you don't know what you're talking about. Like, you're talking about it like it's one word, little like the paranormal. That's such a big word now. And to say that all of that doesn't exist, that's ludicrous. See, I think people have a hard time with when they get a fact that goes against their belief or opinion, it shakes them. Like, in other words, it's like they think they're going to have a clear sailing with their opinion. So if there's no like pushback, they're like, oh, this must be the right thing to do. But I think when people want to tell you their stories, they're ashamed. I don't want to say ashamed, but they're like apprehensive of sharing with you, because if they're gonna do it, they want to make sure you pay attention and really like hear them. Does that make sense? Like, that's what I've been catching. Like, I went from being in a band where when we met people, there was a lot of alcohol and it was like a lot of high fives and that kind of stuff. Quick conversation, get over where you're gonna go. Quick conversation, get over where you go. This has brought me to where it's a deeper conversation. And I was like, all right, so I'm being rude by not really like getting into this with this person. Like, they came over to tell me a story. Like, I had one person do that to me that didn't talk. I was like, I'm going to listen to this person because this person's been looking at me. There's just some guy, and he came up to me and had to tell me a story. And I'm like, I'm going to listen to this guy because he really wants to tell me this. You get probably people that just want to say, hey, but then you're probably able to tell when you get that real, like, I don't know, someone that really wants to tell you something.
Yeah,
Like,
well,
really
so there's only so much I can do for somebody, right? I can listen for a minute, especially if there's a bunch of people, right? You want to talk to everybody, but what I encourage is just for them to talk to each other. You know what I mean? Like, if you need to get it off your chest, anyone can do that for you. You can share it, you can type it up online, you can email it to me, like whatever. But I think that one of the great things that happened, because the shows have become so popular, it's become just, huge television. When we started Ghost Adventures back in 2004, I remember the producers, the execs at the Travel Channel saying, we view paranormal now the same way TV's viewed cooking shows for the last like 50, 60 years. There will always be cooking shows. There have been, there always will be. Like how they go is going to be a little bit different. It's going to change. Personalities are going to dictate things, whatever. Paranormal is now the same way. It's going to be a staple of television. And it's been on, by the way, for, 40 years now. The 80s, there was In Search Of with Leonard Nimoy, and there was Amazing Stories. And, there was
Art Bell.
Unsolved Mysteries. Art Bell on the radio, of course. George Norrie now, like Coast to Coast. Sure. Like all that stuff. Websites, countless websites and books and television shows. What that did, man, when I was a kid in the 80s, I grew up in Sandy Hook, Connecticut, man. We're right next to Ed and Lorraine Warren. I knew them since I was 13 years old. And they were like local kooky celebrities. Back then, I remember there was a place on Main Street called Superstar Sports. They're like, that place is haunted. You're like, come on. That's where we buy like our baseball gloves.
I know that.
And they're like, no. Ed and Lorraine Warren investigated it. And that was the end of it, right? You're like, okay.
I think I got a glove there.
Well, then that's
stamp right there. Stamp.
By the way, Superstar Sports is long, long gone. If anyone's looking in Utah, that place has been gone for many decades. But back then, like, you didn't really talk about this stuff. My buddy's house was built in 1760 down the street. 1760. Wow. We weren't even America yet. And he's like, his parents were like, yeah, the house is haunted. Please don't tell your folks. They'll have us locked up. And today that wouldn't happen. Today they'd be like, yeah, it's haunted. Pretty cool, right? Like on all those TV shows. Weird.
Yeah.
And it's not so crazy. You could talk about it around the office water cooler. You can share it at neighborhood parties and stuff. And that's cool. We've come a long, long way. That it's now out in the open. And I think that's always better than something that's whispered about. It's just a better way.
I'll say this. It's better that it's out in the open. It was cooler when it was whispered about. That's my personal opinion. You can tell me I'm wrong. Secondly, before I kick at the Joe, because it is Joey Paranormal Night, I keep telling my wife what we need to produce is a show called British Serial Killers Paranormal Bake Off. And what it is it'll be serial killers that are British. Maybe they kill some people, stuff like that. There's some ghosts. and then they have a bake-off because apparently that's all my wife watches. It's serial killers, people baking, and ghosts. That's it, buddy. That's all I got. It was like ABC, CBS, NBC back in the day. Go ahead, Joey. It's your turn.
So when I was younger, I was a big fan of Ghost Hunters. I happened upon Ghost Adventures early in its infancy. I don't watch it as much now, but I was really big into it in the first few seasons. That really kind of hooked me. I like the dynamic of that group. I didn't want to ask you a direct question about it because I'm sure you get it a lot, but I do want to ask you about one place that that was investigated by them that I'm sure you've probably done research. You may have been to Bobby Mackey's Music World. Can you just speak on that a little bit? Because that episode and that location, I think, is probably one of the most horrified I've been watching like a paranormal show.
So I knew Bobby Mackey before I knew Ghost Adventures. I'd interviewed Bobby Mackey for one of my books before Ghost Adventures ever started. And Bobby Mackey at the time said he didn't believe in ghosts. However, his employees, and stuff like that, he's like, I'm not calling them liars. They've had some weird stuff, weird experiences here. He's changed that tune since, since this was, this was like 2005 when I interviewed him.
They blend, Jeff.
So, it's been a long time, but so when Ghost Adventures went there, one of the things we learned is that, like some of the history that they tell there is just sort of wrong, right? Like Pearl Bryant's head. I don't think it had anything to do with that building at all. It was found like a mile away. She was murdered for sure. I don't think it had any connection to that building. That building's haunted. I've known so many people that have been in there. I've been in there. Like, it's haunted, but I don't think it's haunted for the reasons that people have said it's haunted. But that's the thing. We sometimes latch on to the backstory, even if it's wrong. And that's the part where I'm like, can we set that straight? Like that's my little mission here in the paranormal is like, I'm not saying it's not haunted. I'm just saying maybe it's not haunted for the reason you say it is. And sometimes we don't know why. Sometimes there's a building and can't find anybody killed there or died there or anything, but people are having weird experiences. Doesn't mean they're lying. It just means that it doesn't have an ooey gooey, backstory that makes for incredible television.
That's going to be really hard, Jeff. That's going to be really hard for you to do because people must want to stick on to their reason for it so badly that way. And you say, yeah, it's happening, but it's not for the reason you think. They must just be like, no. It has to be the reason I think. How do you convince those?
I don't try to convince anyone. I gave up on convincing anyone of anything long ago. All I can do is say, this is what I found. This is what's out there, and try to be as accurate as I can. Try to get it right and do it my way. I mean, so Ghost Adventures, I'm an employee, right? I'm staff. I'm the writer and the researcher. I give them everything I can possibly find on the location. So when they go in, they know what happened where, know what the legend is, know what the truth is. And then whatever happens to them happens. And that's the investigation, right? So in other things, right, I can do it more my way, right? Like my podcast, that's all me. Like that's us deciding what the story is and what we know for sure and how the legend came to be to now. That's the thing I love about this subject is that it's a mystery that has to be unfolded. And the way the mystery works is that we start with the end, which is, oh, this building's haunted, or this was a UFO landing site, or monsters have been seen here. And then we go back in time and we try to figure out how we got to today, how we got to right now, and sort of backfill in everything we can find.
Such a great point.
Do you find that society like screws with all that, like because of the way people are and times have changed, like how it messes with the information that comes through?
Well, sure. And so one of the things that happens is that, and we've seen this in every facet of society and life, right? So information on social media coming from someone who's dynamic or interesting or whatever can be false, but it can still catch on. And that's especially true in haunts or whatever, where, I mean, I've seen like, really popular YouTubers who have like millions of subscribers and they're just like, oh, this is where the devil worshippers cut the head off of all those children. And you're like, what? No, none of that happened. But like, if you say something loud enough, and if enough people listen, some of them are going to believe it. And suddenly that's what happened there. And I mean, that's sort of how folklore and legend works. It's always worked. And the tales get taller as it gets spread from one person to another. It's a telephone game. I mean, that hasn't changed.
Yeah, but when it gets close to a wet t-shirt contest, and everybody tries to do more and more and more for approval of the audience, And buddy, I know you know what I'm talking about. Don't act like
Yeah.
you're innocent. What I'm saying is, when it gets to be like that, that's when it gets to be like, because again, I'll say this: by doing the show 2 years, we have bumped into other people that I don't ever tell them it's bullshit to their face, but you can just, you almost get the feeling that they know it. Like as they're saying it, you look at them and you go, I can kind of tell you really know you're giving a lie of bullshit right now. Why is that? Why do you have that look like you got to go to the bathroom or there's just something going on? Like you don't look right. And that's usually what that is.
Well, it can be frustrating for someone like me, and it has been for years. But then at the end of the day, I think I just became a fully functioning adult, and I said, I can just do what I can do.
Mm-hmm.
I can do it my way. I can do it as good as I can do it, and just let the chips fall where they may. And if people want the crazy story, go to YouTube. If you want as close to the truth as possible, come to me. And if you like the story and you like the way I tell it, I'll be able to put pizza on the table and beer in the fridge and live to do it another day.
My dad used to say, all I can do is show you the cards that are in my hand.
Yeah,
in other words, like, that's the best I can do for you. And secondly, I wrote down, see if you can get Jeff to do your outgoing voicemail. I've been trying to keep up with my notes. You guys are going fast tonight. Go ahead, buddy. I'll give you one more.
Oh yeah, I definitely have a question. So, Jeff, I've been I'm not only been hosting this lovely podcast or sitting here with Mike and doing this lovely podcast for 2 years now. I'm also a paranormal investigator. The man below me is joined me, Christ, like about a decade ago. I've been doing this for over a decade now. When I first got started, paranormal shows were like in their height. They were like Ghost Adventures. Oh, thank you, Mike, for giving me the spotlight here. Ghost Adventures, Ghost Hunters was all that in the bag of chips. While I initially started I got going from a guy that was he had worked with the TAPS organization for a while, and he got me going on this. I tried to do my own thing. Where people ask me, is it like what you see on TV? I'm like, no, it's nothing like you see on TV. You're sitting in the dark for like sometimes 3, 4, 5, 6 hours. Sometimes stuff happens. Sometimes like little things happen, and you can take through a whole bunch of things over the course of a year investigating and come to some kind of a conclusion. But it's never like what you see on TV. I've even had people that have been on TV tell me that it's not always 100% accurate what is being portrayed on TV. So my question to you is, Jeff, for us watching, for viewers watching, for people who are prospective paranormal investigators who are interested in this, who want to do this, what can we learn from TV? What is there on TV that is actually used practically in the field?
So that's a big question. So on the one hand, you have to understand TV is meant to entertain, and you're watching a highlight, right? So a show like Ghost Adventures has got like 20 to 25 people, cameras everywhere, hours and hours and hours of footage. Sometimes the profound moment, as you know, doesn't happen live. Like you captured evidence that you don't even discover for a week until you review it, right? So when you see the playback, you get to see the highlight where it happened with background music, with like great editing and stuff like that. So you're watching a highlight. You're watching a best of something that is inherently boring, as you said. Right? Like sitting in the dark. If anyone ever wanted to film real paranormal investigation, no one would watch it. No one would watch you.
I am so glad that we got to this point, because usually we get to this point right around this time of the show. So have you ever seen the movie Buried with Ryan Reynolds? He's buried the whole time. All right. This is Intrusion. It's on Netflix also. A friend of mine wrote all these movies, and I always try to pitch this pitch to him, but he doesn't seem to buy it. I want to do a show on paranormal investigators that never find anything. Anything. Now wait, Jeff, stay with me. I'm talking about show after show after show. Nothing. It's just them sitting. Last show though, we hype it up and make it seem like we call it like an hour and a half spectacular. You know what I mean? All those like Love Boat type things. We get all hyped up and we find absolutely nothing. That's it. The whole season of nothing.
Like so Seinfeld ghost hunting.
It's a bunch of incompetent like paranormal investigators that they can't find anything. Like they go to one spot, somebody goes to the other spot, and they get all these recordings. They can't record a thing. And Jeff, I mean not a thing. They can't get one shred of evidence. The whole
like the tech guy not only like forgets the DVR,
Yeah.
but loses the DVR.
Oh yeah, all
There's
the
just no chance
all
of
the
recording
technical
anything.
difficulties. Yes. All the issues that people really run into. You get that one person that's new that won't shut up, like that. You get like that. You're like, you gonna shut up? Like, you gonna shut up? Did you hear that ghost? No, because you won't shut up. Like, I don't know. Have that character. I can see that in a tiny
You know what? I'm
voice.
going to make some calls tomorrow to some people I know, and I'm kidding. I can't lie to you guys. I'm not going to do that at all.
No,
I'm
Jeff,
gonna-
we knew you're not going to do that.
I'm glad handling you right now and saying that sounds great. I don't mean it. I'm being completely insincere.
No, we knew that. I mean,
Yeah.
because when you said I'm going to call somebody, I thought you were going to call somebody to come look on me, like knock on the door tomorrow. You guy goes by King, and I'd be like, yeah, and they'd be like, can you put this jacket on? Why'd the sleeves so long? Hey, you know.
I'll tell you what though, man. Like it's funny. Once in a while, people send me, you know, it's called a sizzle reel in the business, where like you film like a 4 or 5 minute commercial for a show that doesn't exist, but it looks like it does. And I've seen a bunch, and you know, people trying every sort of paranormal. Like here, we're really attractive people that look like models doing it, or you know, we're going to do it in broad daylight with the lights on. Isn't that innovative? And it's funny, right? And so like on the one hand, I watched that sizzle and I was like, oh, I'm not in the right context at all. It's just not scary. It's not even inherently scary, right? Like, was that the ice cream truck that just drove by? Right? Like, it's and you need that context. That's absolutely part of it. But anyway, so you see every sort of thing come across, and everybody's always trying something different. Once in a while, I'll get a call from a producer that's like, "Oh, here's the idea," and I'm like, "That's like the dumbest thing I've ever heard of in my life." Like. And you guys are going to go spend money to try to shoot that? And they're like, yeah, well, thanks. Goodbye. This is why I'm not on camera that much. I think because I can't shut up with my opinions.
That's a good thing though.
It's fine.
No, I'm being serious because we're so
Me too.
On Thursdays we're doing a show where we're going to have like unsigned teams that we know show us, send us clips of proof of paranormal stuff. And, we're gonna like play the clips and then comment on them and go through them and whatnot.
Wait, I don't mean to interrupt. Hold on. Did you just say unsigned teams?
Yes,
that's amazing. I've never heard that term in my life.
Yeah.
I think it's incredible. Like we're not signed yet. Oh my God, that's like bands, right?
Yeah.
Like,
well, that's all right. That's so
okay. No. This is great. No, I'm on board. Like, so that's cool. Like, I'm gonna put a team together and be like, we're still unsigned. Like
exactly,
we're indie and we're still cool.
You are.
It is sold out yet.
That's my whole pitch to everybody. You're all
unsigned teams.
We'll show unsigned teams footage to get them more whatever they need. They want more of, and I kind of want to talk soup it, but like in a a respectful way. But like
unsigned teams.
I want to review it first, right, and then let them talk about it. Because if I let them talk about it first, they're gonna ruin it for me and tell me what to look for.
Yeah. That's awesome. So, by the way, we already did a show like this.
I believe you did.
It was called Paranormal Challenge. Zach was the host. I worked on that show too, where we brought in teams, like 3 teams, to a haunt, and then we would judge them and say who was like the best investigator. And then Josh Gates did a show like that too, where they just brought in unsigned teams, which is, I love that term. And they sort of did that as well. And I mean, everybody's like looking for a new way to crack this nut. And I think like it's either like we need bigger personalities, we need rock stars like Zach Bagans, or we need Jason and Grant, to be like the regular guys that show that just everybody can do this, and everything in between. One of the things I love about the paranormal and always have is that for the most part, all are welcome, right? You can be a plumber and you can make contributions. You can be in a band and you can be, you can be a scholar, you can be everything in between and be in this. And I've met people from every walk of life. I mean, from, housewives to accountants to medical doctors. Man, I was at one event once. It was at the Stanley, the Estes Park, right? The Stanley Hotel. Yeah. And this guy was there with his girlfriend the whole weekend. And at the very end, he comes up to me, he goes, I just want to say I had the best time. We had the greatest time. This was so much fun. I just want to give you my card. By the way, I've had plenty of people give me their cards over the years. I don't 99.9% of the time, I don't know what to do with it. I mean, no offense, but like, I'm not in the market for an accountant or a new car or Avon or whatever, right?
There's only 2 things you can do, Jeff. Look at the front side, look at the back. That's all you got.
And so anyway, so this guy hands me his card, U.S. Secret Service. And I'm like, this one I'm gonna save. This one's going in the wallet, right? Because this feels it. I know it doesn't say get out of jail free, but it feels like maybe it could help if I'm ever in trouble. So
I'm so pessimistic. I'd be looking for bugs, Jeff. I'd be like, what did I get this card for? I'd be like,
I don't know, man.
I don't know if it's good or bad, but go ahead.
But everybody's welcome, and I think that's the best part of this. And that whatever it is that you do, people sometimes ask, how do I get into this? I'm like, you just start. You just like it's the same way you become a freelance writer. You just wake up one day and you go, I'm a freelance writer.
So I explained this to Buddy back when we were unsigned completely, complete free agents. I was saying, he was like, we were trying to figure out what we're going to do with the show. And I said, just keep doing shows. Like, let's build up as much catalog of shows, and then we'll figure out what we want to do. And the reason that I'm in this is for fun. That's the beginning and the end reason why I do all of this. Like, sure. I want to have some fun. I enjoy having conversations. I like where they go. I like to put humor in everything that is that I do. This gives me a chance to do that. Except the humor. But it allows me like a platform to have some fun with people and connect and make connections that are different than what I'm used to. Because again, the band world was very competitive. We were very, very competitive. We were friendly, but then there were some bands like Godsmack, very unfriendly. They were very unfriendly and mean to us. He was mean. He beat my knees up horrendously, that guy.
He beat your knees up, Mike?
Yeah, just a Sully joke. I'm 6 feet. Sully's not 6 feet if you ever met him. And he wouldn't let us in the green room, Jeff, because we couldn't go get our bags. I had my backpack in, and I wasn't allowed to go in. They were the opening act, and it was at the living room, which is like, there are a lot of rats in the living room. Let me put it that way. So we were not allowed to get our backpacks as he was praying. Now, you understand that I'm 24-5 at the time. Like, maybe if you told me that now, I would be like, oh, all right. But I'm 25. I'm drunk. I got to get my backpack. Like, I don't like that group. Sorry. Joey, last words.
Yeah, I just want to say, Jeff, this has been a great conversation. I appreciate you coming on. The fact that you've done so much research, I could probably ask you a million questions. I'm sure Buddy can kind of mirror that sentiment. I'd look forward to kind of seeking out some of the works that you've done. I would honestly, I really want to read the book that you put together on the White House, because I think that's the amount of stories. I mean, even not paranormal stories, just the amount of stories in general that could come out of that place. If those walls could talk, I mean, I think we would all probably lose our minds.
Yeah.
So I just want to say thank you. I mean, some of the stories you told were fantastic, and it was just great to listen.
Thanks, Joey.
Buddy.
Yeah, Jeff, I've wanted to meet you since I've started doing this. I every conference that I go to, you're not there, and every conference that I don't get to go to, you're there. I don't know. It's a pleasure always meeting somebody that's involved in the research and not just the paranormal investigating, although both is absolutely fascinating to me. And if nobody's doing anything next Sunday after the Dolphins totally destroy the Bills in the first round of the playoffs.
Well, now everything you say after this is clearly going to be a lie. So let's just maybe choose our words carefully.
Dean McMurray, he's known as the military. Here you go, Joe. He's known as the military medium. He'll be joining us and talking about mediumship, the military, and ghosts and all that fun shit. So, tune in for next Sunday.
Winding down, buddy? You're winding down?
I'm winding down, Mike. I got to write 2 papers.
So, Jeff, first off, thank you. Secondly, I truly appreciate your presentation, the speaking voice, the way that you handle my stupidity. You let it go by you, and you stay on point. That's like a mental game that I play with people, because I want to see who just keeps going past my bullshit and stays on point. And you may be one of the best so far, Jeff. Like, Joey, what's the score the Russians give him?
Probably about like a 9.2.
Yeah.
9.27.
That's pretty good, Jeff.
Pretty
Pretty good. My wife might hire you to just come over the house and be like, just talk to him instead. And then I'll just talk to you, Jeff. You'd be like, yeah, I'm like, whatever. Drinking your coffee, ignoring me, just blowing my shit past you. Fantastic. I love it. But it's how I needed you to be. And I appreciate you. Like, for real, like, I want to make sure how sincere you are, because you are very sincere. And yet you do have that polish. Like, those are 2 things that you got to make sure people know, because one always suggests, like I said, the other thing. And like I said, We're nuanced. No one's like, you have to have a little showmanship in you if you're going to be on a show. If you're going to do something that's going to be seen by other people, if you don't put a little bit of effort into it, why are you doing it? You know what I mean? So that I don't believe in that whole salesman showmanship, whatever. I think it's called polish, knowing how to work. And you've done a lot of things. You've gotten a lot of stuff on your life resume. Like, I keep thinking you should do like a concert T-shirt where it's like you and Twisted Sister makeup. And then on the back, you put all the different things you did as if it was like a tour of your life, like a rock tour that never ended. I mean, you probably have to get 2 shirts. You probably have to get like Buddy to get a shirt, stand next to you, and continue the second half of the stuff in places you went. Actually, to be completely honest, Joey, we may have to get you a 3rd shirt. Like, Jeff's got that kind of resume. Jeff, anything you would like to speak about, plug? Feel free to make fun of us. The floor is yours.
No, thanks for having me. I appreciate it. If anyone's interested, my website's my name, jeffbelanger.com. And my podcast is New England Legends. Every week, a different weird story. And I'm always grateful to meet fellow people on the quest, right? Just people that are trying to figure it out.
Hey, you ever go investigate Federal Hill? I'm being dead serious.
No, I haven't been there yet, but I mean, you know, I'm aware of it.
There's a lot of
tunnels. There's tunnels on Federal Hill.
I know a lot of stuff. Like, I actually know stuff I couldn't tell you. Like, I know a lot of stuff about Federal Hill that people talked about, or that happened, or I've heard had happened there, or like, there's just a lot of. The Italians were really scared of certain places on Federal Hill, and there may or may not have been people buried underneath them. Like, that was a thing that if you went back and I think you dug up all the restaurants on Federal Hill, you'd find a lot of bodies. I'm being dead serious. Like, that's one of those things. I found out they found, what was the president? They found a bunch of dead bodies in his house, in his basement. Was it Ben Franklin? He moved to like,
he was
England?
Dissecting them.
What the hell was that?
And he wasn't a president, but
yeah,
that's
I was about to interject, but I figured I'd let Mike have it.
But you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Was that who I was talking about? Was it?
I think he was dissecting people and performing autopsies and stuff. Yeah.
I don't know why the hell I get off on that, but I was watching that and I was like, "What the Christ is that?"
Yeah, reel it back in, Mike.
Sorry, I actually lost it. There's footage of Sonny Liston shooting his gun over Muhammad Ali's head at the casino, and that was never before seen. It just came out within like the last year or so, but that's proof of it. Like, because he came up to trash talk Sonny Liston. Sonny Liston was a gangster. He just pulled a gun out, he shot it over everyone's head, and everybody ran. I found that too. Jeff, thank you so much. I won't keep any more of my babbling. I'm going to wrap this up nice and neatly. For Jeff Belanger, for Joey Paranormal, for Buddy Money. There it is, me, Mike Liberty King, Mike L. This is Legit Paranormal, brought to you by legitpodcast.com. We will see you again Tuesday night at 8:05. We're going to have an on-air live medium/tarot card reading. Also, next Sunday, we have a show. And also next Sunday, your New York Football Giants travel to Minnesota to beat the Minnesota Vikings. Guys,
at least one of them's talking sense.